Not a single person from the Canadian delegation stood up for Canadian media to be witness to what is going to transpire over the next week. Any comment whatsoever? Canadian delegation, this is not how things work in Canada.
I have no comment.
Any comment?
No comment.
So whose interests are you representing here?
No comment.
The entire organization has just voted unanimously to ban Canadian media. We deserve some answers. I'd like to get them from you, a member of our delegation.
I'm going to try and understand exactly what this decision means, how it plays out, what that looks like, understand what it means for moving forward, understand what the room is for moving forward, and I'd be happy to chat with you again. I can give you my card if you'd like.
Wasn't that amazing? Faith Goldie at the UN Nanny State Conference in New Delhi, India, confronting a Canadian bureaucrat, some nameless, faceless bureaucrat, Susie McDonald's actually her name, about why the Canadian delegation, of which McDonald led, voted to kick out any media whatsoever from this week-long conference, including Faith and the rest of our Canadian team. Well, Faith joins us now. Welcome back to Canada. How are you doing?
It's really good to be back. It was a crazy experience. Just to paint a bit of a picture for our viewers at home, 1,500 delegates from some 180 countries. And you were so right in saying that Susie McDonald was nameless and faceless. You know, if she didn't give me her card, I just did a little experiment trying to look her up online. I couldn't find even an email address for her. We were given the names of all the delegates that were there. These people were literal ghosts online. So when we say that the UN and all these nanny state organizations are unaccountable and unelected, there was a meeting of 1,500 of them, and they were just that.
Yeah. Well, and she promised that she would get back to you.
Right.
But she didn't, did she?
To this day, still waiting on it. I've sent her emails, said urgent media requests, more specific, details within it, and absolutely, mum's the word.
Just out of a personal sense of consciousness and conscientiousness and respect and manners, you'd think she'd even write back and say, I'm sorry, I can't, or just something like, you've got to be gross telling a journalist, I'll get back to you, and then hiding, scurrying like a mouse.
Okay, gross is actually being gentle about it. I felt like I was in some sort of alternate reality when I was there. What was amazing, for the very first kind of plenary session that the journalists were allowed in, until, of course, all 1,500 delegates voted unanimously to kick us out, it was this bizarre situation where countries were self-congratulating and congratulating each other about raising taxes. We've gone from 78 to 81% tax hike on tobacco, and bravo, bravo. I had never seen this before, where countries were actually excited about raising taxes. Well, yeah, that's why they don't want the press in there to report how weird things are.
Now, you showed me something. You brought it back from India. It's on the table here. Can you pick it up?
Sure.
I don't know if folks can see it. We'll zoom in on it.
It's okay. So what this is actual propaganda. It's a pin, okay? And what it is, it says the number's 5.3, you can read over there. And that was the article used against us to kick us out.
So they were so proud of their censorship, they made up pins boasting about their censorship.
In different languages, no less.
That is insane. Now, keeping out journalists is not a Western liberal democratic tradition. Our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Section 2B, talks about freedom of speech in the press. And the United States and Australia and most European countries have freedom of the press. Why did they kick you all out?
I think because they have a narrative and they have an agenda. And even the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, by the way, has a provision for freedom of expression, freedom of thought, which gives way to freedom of the press. And when they have blocked out not just, tobacco lobby, not just people who are part of the vaping community that we know scientifically leads to less harm and actually smoking cessation, they have actually kicked out farmers, tobacco farmers, because they don't want to hear from these people. And I think it is an autocrat's, it is a necessary part of autocratic rule to craft the perfect enemy. And when you have the perfect enemy, then you can legislate against them. I don't want to make the Hitler comparison, but Jews were the perfect enemy. So as soon as they have that, they can legislate accordingly. Here we have the perfect enemy being tobacco. And anyone who asks any sort of question, they say, well, you must be part of the tobacco industry. And if I may, I'd like to play a little clip for you. This happened, we had finished up one of our few press conferences, and Rob Cunningham from the Canadian Cancer Society walked up and accosted our journalists, and well, take a look for yourself. Out of curiosity, what sort of feedback are you getting? What sort of questions about your Rebel Media? Who funds them? What was the speculation?
Well, what do you think?
You don't.
Well, you get funding from tobacco or other.
It's so ironic, given that Big Pharma is basically saying, we want to finance the anti-tobacco movement because we got the Nicoderm and the Nicorette. It's a little bit ironic, but I want to tell our viewers, Faye, I'm glad you brought this up. We set up a crowdfunding page. You can see it right here at rebelun.com. And we crowdfunded Faith and Lauren and the two staffers' trip to New Delhi. And we also crowdfunded our trip to Marrakesh. There is no journalist in the world that is more independent than you and the rest of our team. Every plane ticket, every hotel room, every taxi fare paid for by our grassroots viewers. It's incredible to me that they think, if you're asking a question, you must be an enemy.
That's exactly what it is. And it was amazing to me because I said, no, we're actually crowdfunded. We have no big, scary tobacco funding us. And they couldn't believe that we had that big an audience. They could not believe that there was that much of an interest in what they were doing behind closed doors that would inevitably lead to, frankly, anti-capitalist and anti-consumer declarations that would then be instituted to some 180 countries. And by the way, you mentioned Big Pharma. Big Pharma is allowed in the doors. The people who stand to gain the most from these decisions, and those who stand to be harmed the most, tobacco farmers, as well as the tobacco industry, which, by the way, is capitalist. And I say that as someone who does smoke and understands the risks involved, but continues to smoke otherwise. So those who stand to lose the most are blocked out, and those who stand to gain the most are welcomed in. It's backwards. It's unaccountable. There's absolutely no way for us to hold these people to account except for reporting on what's happening, and even that they shut the doors to us.
Well, I'm so glad you were there and in full force. Folks, if you haven't seen all of Faith's videos, please find them elsewhere on our website, on YouTube. Great videos by Faith. She was down there with Lauren Southern. More videos to come. I'm just so proud of the work you were doing. You did more genuine journalism at that UN convention than any other reporter. I should say, and I know this segment is a little bit long now, but there were 3 or 4 reporters from Reuters, one of the most senior news gathering organizations in the world. They didn't file.
Not one.
And they didn't talk about the media ban. They didn't talk about the military coming in to arrest protesters. You did more real journalism, thanks to the crowdfunding of our viewers, than Reuters. And I thank you, and I thank Lauren and the rest of our team.
Well, I thank folks at home. I couldn't have done it without you.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.